Back for a moment and recognize where we are right now. The United States has launched a trade war with the world's second largest economy, China. Together, the two countries account for almost 45% of global output and more than 20% of global trade. And it's entered this battle with remarkably little planning and forethought. Do we have a sense of where these growing tensions will lead? It would be easy to blame the Trump administration alone for shooting first and thinking later. More than 80% of all smartphones imported by the US come from China, as do 78% of all computer monitors. Can we find new suppliers for these in the next few months? Meanwhile, China imports lots of oil, gas, soybeans, and pork from America, which can be easily bought from other countries around the world. The truth is, the United States has been sleepwalking into increased economic warfare with China for several years now, probably starting around Barack Obama's second term. All previous measures, though, were small bore compared to where we are now. Tariffs against most Chinese goods are at 145%, and China's tariffs against most American goods are at 125%. As Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent has said, this basically amounts to an embargo, which he admitted is unsustainable, which of course raises the question, why did his boss initiate a strategy that cannot be sustained? China and Xi Jinping play an important, maybe central role in the rupturing of relations. In 2015, before Donald Trump was first elected, Xi announced his major new Made in China economic project, an ambitious set of policies explicitly designed to make China less dependent on Western technology. Xi had already aroused American suspicions by making a series of foreign policy moves that were more ambitious, adventurous, and militaristic than his predecessors. Add to this the reality that trade with China had caused job losses in America, especially in electorally important states, and the rise of more hawkish US views around China was inevitable. But would a less entangled relationship reduce strategic risk? First, decoupling of the two economies would make the US poorer. Under one tariff scenario, Oxford Economics says US GDP could be 1.4% less than it would be otherwise. That's hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth lost annually. There are also second-order effects. Inflation as companies shift supply chains, productivity losses from diminished specialization, and the opportunity cost of disrupted innovation ecosystems. Trade flows will get distorted as Chinese companies set up new ventures in Southeast Asia, Mexico, and other places to bypass tariffs. Smuggling will boom. Every American action will produce a Chinese reaction. Consider technology. While Washington has valid reasons to limit Beijing's access to the highest-end chips, has it been effective? In chip making and in AI, Chinese firms like Huawei and DeepSeek appear to be able to produce results that are close to the cutting edge, but often at a fraction of the American cost. NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang this week noted that half of all AI researchers in the world are Chinese, and that China is just slightly behind the US. He also explained, more crucially, that sometimes in technology, the country that wins is the one that applies innovations fast and well, not the first mover. So have Washington's expensive and cumbersome bans on technology only spurred China to innovate, become a fast follower, and could it end up in a better place than if these bans had never been enacted in the first place? It's an uncomfortable question, but it must be asked. Finally, what would a world in which the US and China had little economic relationship with each other look like? Keeping the two countries deeply intertwined economically, trading, investing, and interacting with each other is a force that makes outright conflict more complicated. It's not a guarantee against war, but surely it is a disincentive. A cautionary tale comes from the past. In 1940, as Japanese aggression in Asia grew, the US placed an embargo on the trade of certain items with Tokyo. In July 1941, Washington froze Japan's assets and cut off oil exports to Tokyo in response to Japan's invasion of Southeast Asia. Now, Japan imported nearly 90% of its oil from the US, and the embargo left it with very limited strategic reserves. The result was not Japanese capitulation, it was Pearl Harbor. Cut off from critical imports and seeing no diplomatic off-ramp, Tokyo concluded that war was preferable to strangulation. It is not a perfect analogy. A militaristic Japan was choosing war to build a nation empire. But it is a reminder that sanctions, tariffs, decoupling, and isolation do not have a history of ending in peace and prosperity. Go to cnn.com/Fareed for a link to my Washington Post column this week.